أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, quoting the jinn when they were conversing with each other, that they said, وَأَنَّهُمْ ظَنُّوا كَمَا ظَنَنْتُمْ أَنْ لَنْ يَبْعَثَ اللَّهُ أَحَدًا وَأَنَّهُمْ ظَنُّوا كَمَا ظَنَنْتُمْ أَنْ لَنْ يَبْعَثَ اللَّهُ أَحَدًا. And that they, the humans, thought as you, O jinn, thought that Allah will never resurrect anyone. So in the previous 6 verses, the jinn, they were mentioning and they were conversing with each other how they heard the Prophet ﷺ reciting the Quran, and then they accepted Islam, and then they went back to the jinn kind, to the jinn folks, and they started sharing what they have heard, right? They heard the Quran, which was a book that was guiding towards the right path. Come from here, come from here, come from here. Yeah, go. Yeah, you can go from here. So the Prophet they heard the Prophet recite the Quran, and they found that the Quran is some book that guides towards the right path, towards the straight path, and they believed in it, and they are not going to commit shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then they said that they presented 3 reasons why the jinn used to commit shirk, right? The first reason that they presented is mentioned in ayah number 4 and 5. Which is, some people, Iblis and Shayateen, they invented lies about Allah. They invented lies about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These jinn gave a reason that they didn't know that the humans and jinn could actually dare to lie about Allah. So you can call, like, they were naive in this aspect. You can think of it that way, that they couldn't fathom that a human being or a jinn or Iblis could ever dare to lie about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know. So if there's anybody who would say anything about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they assume that, you know, this is most probably true. So they accepted that, which resulted in their falling into shirk. Who are they specifically referring to when it comes to the jinn? Do we know? Who specifically they are referring to? These jinn who became Muslim, who are they specifically referring to? The jinn kind who lied to them? Iblis. They are referring to the Iblis, the father of Shayateen, that he lied. That's why they fell into shirk, right? So Iblis used to lie about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the jinn folks. You understand? And this is why the jinn, they never thought that somebody could do that. So they accepted whatever Iblis told them, until they actually heard the Quran from the Prophet ﷺ, and then they accepted it. You know, regarding this point, have you ever wondered why Adam alayhi salam, how did Adam alayhi salam, you know, fell into eating from that tree? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically commanded Adam and Hawa to do not come near this tree, right? Yeah? So he basically lied to them, right? He lied to them, and not only he lied, Iblis lied to them, Iblis actually took an oath in the name of Allah. He took an oath in the name of Allah, which is an oath of falsehood, lie. And Adam alayhi salam, basically, when he heard Iblis, well, Adam didn't know that he was lying, right? So what Adam alayhi salam, our father, heard was Iblis taking an oath in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Adam alayhi salam, exactly thinking the same way these jinn, Muslim jinn, were, that how could anybody take a false oath in the name of Allah? How could anybody do that? That's impossible. So Adam alayhi salam then actually paid attention to what Iblis was saying, and he went with it. He went with it, assuming that he's never gonna lie about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's never going to lie and take a false oath in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same thing the jinn are mentioning over here. The same reason jinn are mentioning over here, that the reason they fell into the shirk was they never thought that human beings or the jinn will be able to or dare to lie in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by the jinn, they're mentioning Iblis first and foremost, right? So this topic always kind of bothered me, right? How can Adam alayhi salam, all the prophets are ma'soom. They are sinless. They are protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from committing a sin, right? So how did Adam alayhi salam, who was also ma'soom, protected from committing a sin, fell into the trap of shaitan? How did that happen? And this is the answer, right? Now that makes sense. Sheikh Idris Kandhalawi, one of the great muhaddiths from India, he actually mentions this point in Aqaid al-Islam, right? He said, Iblis took a false oath in the name of Allah to deceive Adam. And this is in context of this ayah, right? And the other ahadith. So this becomes very clear that our father Adam alayhi salam was deceived because of a false oath, because of false oath. And this also teaches us, all right, no more kids passing. You can go, Maryam, but no more passing again, okay? All right. Now we put a stop to all the kids passing, mashallah. All right, what was I saying? Somebody put me back on track. I lose chain of thought. Yeah. Yeah, we already discussed that, right? Because of the lie of Iblis, right? Yeah, yeah. So we discussed that, right? That and Iblis' false oath became the reason why the jinn. What I was saying is that the shirk, the false oath is such a huge sin, is such a huge, massive sin that it can actually derail an entire race and nation into disbelief. It's the false oath of Iblis that caused the jinn kind to commit shirk. Can you imagine that? Until the Prophet ﷺ was reciting that surah, those verses, and the jinn, these first batch of jinn, they heard the Prophet ﷺ recite and they became Muslim, right? So how many jinn there would be who adopted that lie and they did not know that it was a lie, right? So a lie could, a false oath could actually destroy aqidah, could actually destroy nations, it has a huge negative impact on people's afterlife and jinn's afterlife. So subhanAllah, may Allah protect us. May Allah protect us. The second reason, well, the fault was, I mean, it's a mistake, right? But it's not a sin. It's a mistake. The jinn? Yeah, it's a mistake. No, once they know the revelation, now that's a sin. So now they're giving da'wah to other jinn. So once you have received the da'wah and you reject it, that's a sin. That's not a mistake then. Yeah. Now the second reason the jinn mentioned for their disbelief or their shirk was in verse number 6. Some human beings used to seek refuge in the jinn, and this would boost their arrogance. And we discussed this in detail in the last session, how the human beings used to seek refuge in the jinn. And number 3, the third reason they gave is in this verse, وَأَنَّهُمْ ظَنُّوا كَمَا ظَنَنْتُمْ أَنَّ يَبْعَثَ اللَّهُ أَحَدًا. Those jinn, like the humans, they used to believe that there is no resurrection. Once you die, YOLO. So these jinn, they also believed in YOLO. What is YOLO? You only live once. Is that true? Yeah. So jinn, they also believed in YOLO. So YOLO is not something new that somebody from the West invented in like 2000 whatever, 2025. It's not something new. It's an ancient understanding of all those people who rejected resurrection. Right? So the jinn, these jinn, they believed YOLO, you only live once. Once you die, then you die, and then that's it. There is no resurrection, there is no day of judgment, there is no answer. You don't have to answer for your actions. Similarly, the disbelievers, they also used to reject the resurrection. The Quraysh, they did not have a belief of resurrection. They never believed in resurrection, right? And they used to reject the day of judgment even. So no resurrection, no day of judgment. The Quraysh used to have this belief, the jinn used to have this belief. But resurrection is part and parcel of our belief. And the resurrection is a consistent belief of all the previous scriptures. The Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Prophet Musa alayhi salam, Prophet Isa alayhi salam, all of these previous scriptures, they came with the message of resurrection. That you are going to be on the day of judgment and standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And after this life, there is death, and after death, there is resurrection, standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Surah Al-Yasin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الْإِنسَانُ أَنَّا خَلَقْنَاهُ مِن نُطْفَةٍ فَإِذَا هُوَ خَصِيمٌ مُبِينٌ. Did humans not see that we have created him from a drop of semen, then suddenly he stood up as an open adversary. Does a human being not realize, not recognize what is he created from? He is created from a small drop of water, so small drop of semen, right? Nutfa. Then suddenly he becomes so daring that he starts, he takes an adverse steps to challenge the Creator. Who are you? Allah, basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is humbling human being down. Who are you? You are something that is created from a drop of water, an impure water, semen. This is what the reality of human being is. And now that you began walking and you learned few words and you began to speak, now you're challenging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Creator, and questioning the reality of what He has revealed. وَضَرَبَ لَنَا مَثَلًا وَنَسِيَ خَلْقَهُ. And He has set up an argument about us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. And He has set up an argument about us and forgot His own creation. وَنَسِيَ خَلَقَهُ. He forgot His own creation. He forgot Himself, how He got created. Right? From a semen, from a drop of water. قَالَ مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ. Who then says, challenges Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, questions, who will give life to these bones when they are decayed and disintegrated? See, a human being was nothing, from a drop of semen became a man or a woman, and now they possess a little bit of intellect, right? A little bit of intellect. Now they are questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this bone that is in front of them, which is decaying and disintegrating, will Allah, the Creator, will resurrect this, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then responds, قُلْ يُحْيِيهَا الَّذِي أَنْشَأَهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ خَلْقٍ عَلِيمٌ. Say, O Prophet, He will revive them, and the same one who has created them for the first time. The one who created you for the first time will be the same one who is going to resurrect you, right? And He is fully aware of every creation. There is an incident from the life of the Prophet ﷺ from the Seerah that is narrated from Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that As ibn Wa'il, who's As ibn Wa'il? Ibn Wa'il. Al-As ibn Wa'il. Who is that? Who is Al-As ibn Wa'il? No, not companion. He's a disbeliever. Nobody knows? No. A friend of Abu Jahl? Definitely true. He's a friend of Abu Jahl. Al-As ibn Wa'il. You're going to check ChatGPT. ChatGPT, quick, give me the answer, quick. You were trying to do that. Good luck. Al-As ibn Wa'il was a friend of Abu Jahl. He was the league of the enemies of the Prophet ﷺ, the top tier league that was opposing the Prophet ﷺ. So he took a bone. He took a bone which was decaying. أَخَذَ عَزْمًا مِنَ الْبَطْحَاءِ فَفَتَّهُ بِيَدِهِ. And it disintegrated in his hands. It was so like old and decayed that when he picked the bone, it basically broke into pieces and dust in his own hands, and he came with that in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَقَالَ لِرَسُولِ اللَّهِ sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then he said to the Prophet, أَيُحْيِي اللَّهُ هَذَا بَعْدَ مَا أَرَى. Will Allah resurrect this after what I have seen it? Basically, this bone did not even last a bone. It became pieces and powder in front of me, and Allah will resurrect this? The Prophet ﷺ responded, نعم يميتك الله ثم يحييك ثم يدخلك جهنم. The Prophet ﷺ said, yes, He will cause you to die, and then He will cause you He will bring you back to life, then He is going to enter you into the hellfire. Allah's Messenger ﷺ responded with this response to Al-As ibn Wa'il. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Messenger ﷺ said you are going to be entered into hellfire? He's just coming to ask a question. How do you know he's mocking? Because Allah, there's always this question. Yeah? There's the one answer. Because Allah's Messenger. So Allah told him. That's a good one.
He's a friend of Abu Jahl, so he knows.
He's a friend of Abu Jahl. Mocking is good. Allah told him that's good. The way he approached the Prophet ﷺ, that showed that he is challenging the Prophet ﷺ. He what? It's written in his decree. Yeah, so all of these are good. Yes? you end up with the kind of people you are friends with. Like he's hanging out with Abu Jahl, so he's kind of taking that attributes. Very true, very true. The thing is, all of these are something that are not explicitly in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. This narration does not explicitly mention any of that, right? This is all we have extrapolated from the context that we understand. He's a friend of Abu Jahl, so he will have certain characteristics sharing of Abu Jahl, because we know a lot about Abu Jahl, right? So we are extrapolating, but this narration is not giving any such detail. All this answer that you have given me is outside of this narration. This narration is silent from these things, right? But the point I want to make is we have another narration that gives a bigger story, a context behind this incident. Okay? So the other narration is أن جماعة من كفار قريش منهم أبي بن خلف وأبو جهل والعاص بن وائل والوليد بن مغيرة. There was a group of kuffar of the Quraysh, a group of disbelievers from the Quraysh, and from amongst them was Ubay ibn Khalaf, Abu Jahl, Al-As ibn Wa'il, and Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira. Who's Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira? The father of Khalid ibn Walid. Who is Al-As ibn Wa'il? He's the father of Amr ibn al-As. Their children became top-tier companions of the Prophet ﷺ. And these fathers, they are the top-tier enemies of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay? Ubay ibn Khalaf and Abu Jahl. So these four notorious enemies of the Prophet ﷺ, they're chiefs of Quraysh, and they're hanging out with each other, and they're talking to each other. They're conversing with each other. تَكَلَّمُوا فِي ذَلِكَ. They're talking with each other. فَقَالَ لَهُمْ Ubay. Ubay said, أَلَا تَسْمَعُونَ مَا يَقُولُ مُحَمَّدٍ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْعَثُ بِالْأَمْوَاتِ. Have you heard what this Muhammad keeps talking about? That Allah is going to resurrect the dead? قَالَ وَاللَّاتِ وَالْعُزَّى. And then Ubay took an oath by his idols, by Lat and Al-Uzza, لَأَسِيرَنَّ لَهُ وَلَأَخْصِمَنَّهُ وَأَخَذَ عَزَمًا بَالِيًا وَجَعَلَ يُفَتِّتُهُ بِيَدِهِ. So he said, I take an oath by Lat and Uzza, and I am going to definitely go and grab Muhammad and corner him, and I'm going to debate with him. I'm going to debate with him. So he grabbed a very old bone, and he came in front of the Prophet ﷺ, and this old bone basically disintegrated in front of the Prophet ﷺ in the hands of Ubay. In the other narration is Al-As ibn Wa'il, and in this narration is Ubay. Right? So that shows that it's like a group that came. It's a group that came together, challenging the Prophet ﷺ. And when this bone disintegrated in his hands, he said, O Muhammad, Ya Muhammad, أَتَرَى اللَّهَ يُحْيِي هَذَا بَعْدَمَا رَمَّ. Do you think that Allah is going to resurrect this bone after it became powder in front of me? And in front of you, this powder, Allah will resurrect this powder. It's not even a bone. It's not even a solid state. The Prophet ﷺ said, Naam, وَيَبْعَثُكَ وَيُدْخِلُكَ جَهَنَّمْ. That yes, Allah will resurrect you, and He is going to throw you into the hellfire. This is narration of Qatada ibn Di'ama, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So, when we talk about some incident, we need to make sure that we bring all the ahadith and narrations about that topic so that we have a larger picture. We can't make a judgment call based on one hadith that we have. We need to make sure all the ahadith are in front of us, and then we have a bigger picture, more context, more details. That's the point of it. So all the things that you were answering, they were from your background knowledge, not the narration. You didn't have proof. But this, when you combine these two narrations together, you have a bigger picture, and the proof is within the narration. So that brings us to the third topic, reincarnation versus resurrection. Resurrection is part of our aqidah, our belief, and the opposite of that is reincarnation. Who believes in reincarnation? Hindus believe in reincarnation. Other idol worshippers, even today, they believe in reincarnation. Spiritualists in the West, they believe in reincarnation. Your soul dies and your soul appears in the shape of plants. Your soul appears in the shape of trees. Your soul appears in the shape of animal or some other human beings. If you do good, then they say that you will reincarnate with a better, higher class of human being. But if you do evil, then either you will go to a lower class of human being, or you will go to an animal. You will become an animal in your next life, maybe a dog, maybe a cat, maybe what? A cockroach, maybe a mouse, right? Is it too bad to be a dog and cat? I mean, depends. If you're in a good house and you're a cat, you're a royalty. You have more food than a human beings in Gaza. right? It's just it doesn't make sense, illogical. Like you could be a cat and in a good family you have more food. You could be a dog and you could be having a very wealthy and luxurious lifestyle. Yes? Yes? So how's that bad? That doesn't sound evil to me. How's that bad? Not from an Islamic perspective. Oh, it's not just, I'm not talking about from the Islamic perspective. You know, a dog who's living in a mansion has more food, more medicines available, living in AC and heater during the winter than brothers and sisters in Gaza. Yes? So he has a better lifestyle. Okay, so how's that bad? He's living a good life. So reincarnation, it doesn't make sense, right? You do evil and you end up being a dog or a cat in a good house. Where is the punishment? There's no punishment. I don't know. So I don't know how people believe this. May Allah guide us all. May Allah guide us all. This is the tricks of shayateen. This is how the shayateen get us, right? So the reincarnation is illogical. It does not make sense. And there is no proof of any of that. Another logical argument would be that if you visit a city, you would remember all of these good things that you have seen and experienced and all the traumatic experiences you had in that city. You will share with that. How come nobody has any good or bad feelings, experiences that they remember from their so-called past life? How come that is the case, right? So it's illogical. There is no logical proof. There is no scriptural proof either. Resurrection makes sense. Why resurrection is important, and with that we will conclude, inshallah. When you have the aqidah, belief of resurrection, you have the understanding that you are going to be standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you're going to be answerable for your actions. You are being held accountable. When you believe that you are becoming a cat, dog, or tortoise, or a dolphin, or a whale in the next life, there is no accountability of your actions in this life. There is no accountability in reincarnation. There is accountability in resurrection. And that's why the idol worshippers, they used to reject resurrection. That's why Iblis, this is the hierarchy coming from Iblis and his lies, right? Because he warned the people, human beings, and the jinn to deviate and go into the hellfire and not end up in paradise, okay? So may Allah grant us the understanding and faham of this resurrection, that the jinn, they were able to understand, and may Allah grant us the ability to understand this as well. Read again these verses of Surah Al-Jinn from verse number 1 to verse number 7, inshallah. Tomorrow we're going to talk about 3 or 4 verses, starting verse number 8, inshallah, which we already discussed in the introduction. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. أذان إن شاء الله.